I hate it when people say that you have to overlook the pedophilia in Monogatari in order to get into it. Like, that's a huge part of Araragi's character, and I think kind of the theming of the entire series. Like Araragi is not just, anime protagonist who, is a lolicon because he's a surrogate for the audience. I think that's part of how Bake presents it in order to get your more, trashy anime fan invested in what Nishiyori scene specifically is trying to do outside of the tropes that it, borrows from in order to accustom you to the way that Monogatari is different from other works, and takes things like that more seriously, the fact that Araragi in Nisei Monogatari is like, oh, I realized now that this is completely fucked and I don't want to do this to someone now that this has been done to me, that's not a dumb revelation nor a joke, and it's, that's a part of it, and it's a part of his development as a character, and Araragi's not a good guy. He's not evil, but he's just a man, he's really fucked. He hates himself enough, he wants to kill himself constantly. He's constantly in denial about what he's doing. In the books, he repeatedly says, "This would have aroused me. However, it did not, because I am not a pedophile." Meanwhile, his actions are completely out of sync with his mind, which is something that I think is fascinating and probably reflective of how real pedophiles think. Another thing about Araragi is he's completely in a state of arrested development, and totally he may as well be a child for how he interacts with people, because he stopped developing socially after a series of traumatic incidents, involving Sodachi and stuff. And he totally closed himself off to other people entirely. And it was all because of this one incident involving child abuse and involving his own feeling of guilt surrounding not helping someone in an abusive situation. And so I think after that, it's he closes himself off completely, and then socially, he's still a little kid. And you can see it from the way he interacts with kids versus adults. The more grown-up characters in the show, Araragi is either just off-put by, outright hates, or doesn't know how to interact with at all, is completely awkward around, can never read the intentions of. And yet with children, he just lights up. And it's not a purely sexual thing. It's clearly that when he sees Mayoi, he's so oh, this is an opportunity to help someone. But he would never try to Araragi is someone who helps people, but, he tries to help. The way he tries to help Senjogahara and Mayoi are completely different. He approaches Mayoi with this, total sense of, he's clearly having a good time with it. Whereas every moment he spends interacting with Senjogahara in that first arc, he's clearly I hate this, but this is the right thing to do, so I'm going to do it, And it's when they go back in time, what does he want to do? He has got to see Hanakawa. Because it's Hanakawa is someone he's completely incapable of responding to normally, because he flat out cannot read anything she's giving him, because she's on a totally different level than him socially. And perhaps intellectually, but that's another story. But then when he sees her as a kid, he's I get this. And, obviously, it's a two-sided thing. It's a completely two-sided thing. And it's a thing he has to, work on. And it's fucked, that's a part of who Araragi is. He's a fucked up, self-hating man-child pedo. And that's, not good in any way. But, it is who he is. You should not just be oh, yeah, that's part of the show. Koyomi Araragi works as a protagonist because he in a show that's all about, like, the best and worst of reality, and coming to terms with, different kinds of people and ways of thinking, and sort of learning to accept yourself and accept the world as the horrible, fucked up thing it is. Like, Araragi is the perfect protagonist for a story like that, because he exemplifies the best and worst of humanity. He has a sort of childlike innocence that means that he will go and try to help someone and try to empathize with someone, even when it's not, like, convenient for him. In fact, he's so willing to put himself at risk because he does hate himself for being this horrible person, which he is, even if he won't fully accept it and the audience won't accept it. Like, he is a fucked up person, and that's a huge part of the show. And it's better for it, in my opinion. It's much better for it. Much better than a show that would depict that kind of stuff in a way that is solely joking. Now, is it joking? Yes. I mean, let's not beat around the bush. Yes, they are played for comedic effect. Some may find them funny. I think part of the Monogatari series ethos is that you have to learn to, like they say in Earthbound, like, you must keep your sense of humor, because the world is so fucked. The world is so backwards and fucked. What else are you gonna do? The best you can do is try and work on yourself and try and do good and try and stop fucked shit from happening in the real world, And, like, I think if you're looking at this show and you're being like, oh yeah, like, this show is, like, fan service for pedophiles, and it's, like, just meant to be gratifying to, like, an audience that jerks off to little girls, but I just ignore that part and like it anyway. Like, that's very fucked up, I think. Like, that, like, if the Monogatari series was really just, like, softcore porn for pedophiles, I wouldn't think that was a good thing necessarily. I certainly wouldn't make it, like, such a huge part of my identity. It wouldn't be my favorite show, right? But I think a lot of people, it is one of their favorites, and they still look at it through that lens, and it's so weird and messed up. I think it's much better to be like, yeah, this is a show. It doesn't always knock it out of the park. It's not going to be politically correct all the time. It does deal with it it deals with its subject matter in a way that is totally glib. It's totally glib about a lot of the stuff it deals with, because it's a fucked up show and it's touching on stuff that's hard to touch on in, like, television. But it tries to do it, and I applaud it for touching on those things in a way that I don't see other media doing, even if it's, not always perfect, even if it's something that you could misconstrue, even if it's something I've misconstrued. I like that it's caused me to think about these things, and I think that's valuable, and I think that's good. And you don't have to like it, and you shouldn't like it if you don't like it. You shouldn't be like, oh yes, the Monogatari series is a classic, but also it's for pedos. No, that's bad. Don't like things that are like that. If you have other shows that you're watching that are like that, and you're saying, oh yeah, I just overlooked that one part, that's not good. Like, it doesn't make you a bad person. It's okay to laugh at stuff like this, I think, from time to time. But it should not be like, if it were actually doing anything wrong, if it were actually trying to promote anything evil or, like, devilish, which pedophilia is, it's evil and devilish, then, like, fuck, dude, that would be messed up, and you shouldn't support a show like that. But I think Monogatari series is totally getting at something deeper and greater than that, and it's trying to be more holistic in how it looks at the world, and that's what I respect about it, I mean, that's how it treats a lot of its characters, you know. It's just like, hey, this is like a fucked person, but they're, you know, you kind of see why they're this way, and also they legitimately do some good things, you know. Araragi would not be as self-sacrificing a person, nor as, like, I don't know, like, eerily innocent a person, which is sometimes good, as we see in this show, were it not for this fucked up trauma that happened to him that he's trying to work through, you know, in his own fucked up way. But yeah, that's part of it. He's attracted to kids. That is fucked up and bad. But like, he knows that's fucked up and bad, even if he doesn't fully accept that that's what he's doing all the time. It's clear, it's obvious, it's all there, it's text, it's not subtext. It's subtext. Please read the subtext of the material you enjoy. Thank you. Good night.